Okay, guys, welcome. Thank you for coming and taking your time up this evening to come and join us and the guys on their presentation looking at DLP. It's our November meetup, and we just also like to thank our sponsors HTG as well for sponsoring tonight's event. Okay, just want to go through our code of conduct. So this user group is a fun, safe place for all to learn and grow within the area of Microsoft Cloud security. We actively encourage an inclusive and diverse community, and we are a diverse tech community where all are individuals with differences, but we are all members and we all learn from each other. We expect every member of this group to respect each other, whether they are attending or presenting at our group. Charlie, do you want to touch on the socials?
Yeah, so obviously just as usual, socials, Twitter, YouTube, LinkedIn. So obviously follow us on Twitter. We tweet regularly when the group's coming up and who's going to be on. Obviously YouTube, effectively all our sessions are recorded, so we upload them onto our YouTube channel. We're looking at how we can expand that. And then finally LinkedIn, just because, well, got to round it off with LinkedIn really. So yeah, that's our socials really. Told you not to do the transitions, Chris.
Sorry.
So just
Sorry.
kind of to. Oh,
I couldn't help but notice, Chris, I actually know who you are now. Now I've seen this photo. I know exactly who you are. I've seen this NASA photo a million times on Twitter. So this photo is iconic. So apologies. I couldn't help myself.
Why haven't you got a Mastodon page yet, guys? Fucking everyone else does.
It's all about the Musk. Twitter's going to be around for years. We'll buy Twitter Blue accounts just to ensure we're verified in some way.
Okay, Charlie, do you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, so obviously I'm Charlie Goff. I'm a senior cloud security architect for a company based in Zurich called Open Systems. Been doing this now for, since I think we had our first one over January or February at the beginning of this year. Looking to get some kind of more exposure and more kind of talks and really focus on the cloud security community really. So I'm based down in Somerset in the UK, so a bit in the sticks really. So surprised I've got internet and electricity most days, so it's always good.
Yeah, so I'm Chris Wright. I currently work for HTG. They're based up in the northeast of the UK. Obviously, my accent gives it away that I'm not from anywhere near there. But I'm an Azure SME there for HTG, working on right across Azure. Bit of M365, but we've got a bit of a passion for security and IT security. You can find me on Twitter and also LinkedIn that are listed on there. Okay, without further ado, tonight's agenda. We have got John Jarvis, José Pinos, and Luke Evans, who are going to be presenting tonight on stopping data exfiltration dead using Microsoft 365 Endpoint DLP. Okay, after this, we've got a quiz. We'll also have another guest joining us for a couple of minutes to talk to you about something exciting that's coming up within the community. And then we'll do a bit of closing feedback. So I'd like to hand over to the guys.
Awesome. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. First and foremost, as ever, I'd like just to say thanks for having us is the first thing. We'll give a shout out to HTG as well. Thank you for sponsoring the event. You know, without these kind of sponsors, we wouldn't be able to have events like these. Now, first and foremost, can everyone see my screen? Is usually what I would ask first and foremost. It may be just I would say it's a purple screen, but you know, we're building up to something is the thing. So what we're here to talk about today, stopping data exfiltration dead using endpoint DLP. So we're looking very specifically at endpoint DLP is the real key part of this session, is the important part. What do we want to talk about today? Well, first and foremost, who we are. We'll cover it briefly. I know we did talk a lot of rubbish at the beginning, but every opportunity I get to talk about myself, I will gladly take. So I will, I will definitely take that opportunity. We're going to talk a bit about what endpoint DLP is. What is it about? Then we want to talk. We're going to put John to the test here and see if he can actually give us a live demo. So yeah, exactly. Jose's got it in one. Let's all pray a moment for John. He's got.
Well,
We're going to go for a live demo.
I tested it today. It wasn't working on Monday. I come back to my Windows 365 machine and it was there, ready to go.
Well, you
guys are gonna be so impressed.
I'm ready for you. I'm ready.
Mate, you're gonna be so impressed. It's unbelievable.
I think we've done this session twice before. At the moment, it's 50-50. Is that right? Jose?
That's right. Absolutely. Yeah. Some things work, some others maybe not. But he tries. That's what matters.
Then we're going to talk about.
Wait, see the beginning. There's a code of conduct about bullying.
Sorry.
And then we're going to go hand over to Jose for a bit, and he's going to run us through a bit about how we can take endpoint DLP probably to the next level. How can we integrate this into a SOC really is the important thing. And then finally, we want to end up with some questions. How can we help? If you've got any questions around it, we'd love to have them is the one. I will try to periodically check the chat throughout is the one. If you have any questions, Chris has just said, can you raise your hands or put it in the chat? I'm fairly flexible. I would rather, you guys feel free to don't wait till the end. Feel free to stick them in the chat. Feel free to raise your hand. I'd rather that than us just kind of ranting and raving at you is typically what I would say at the beginning of any of these. Now, like I said, I'll always take an opportunity to talk about myself. I'll keep it brief. Luke Evans, solutions architect. I'm a consultant for a few different companies at the moment. I primarily contract to a place called Agilicis. I also do some work for Police Digital Service at the moment. So that's kind of the main lineup. My background, you can see top left, I did about 6 years at Microsoft. I come from a collaborative background. So SharePoint, I think I did about 5 or 6 years in SharePoint pre-sales and support. I kind of cover everything across 365 and Azure. I'm a Microsoft MVP in M365 apps and services.
Oh no! I knew you were going to do this, guys. I hate you. Hi everyone. My name is José Pinos. I'm a security architect at Microsoft. I work for the GPS unit, so I actually help partners in the UK to build the security practices. My focus is protect against threats, focusing on SIEM and XDR. I've been at Microsoft for 3 months now, but before that, I used to head security operations for a Microsoft partner. So I'm very passionate about security, especially about Microsoft, what we're doing, how we are changing the game. So I was looking forward to talking to you here today. So thank you for having me.
And there's a bit of
photo.
Yeah, a bit of an inside joke. Jose carries his badge around with him 24/7. So literally wherever he goes, he's always got his Microsoft badge on him. We were at a conference recently. He actually had it in his pocket. What was the possible need he could have for this?
You
badge?
asked for this picture today. I hate you. So you'll pay back. No worries. It's fine.
I can just interject there, and that was the first thing he showed me when I met him.
Go on then, John. You're up.
Go on, Black Band. Go on now.
So, got to expose myself. Right, my name's John Jarvis. I am a principal consultant at CDW. I've over 10 years of delivering Microsoft solutions across the Microsoft 365 stack, including Intune, Exchange, and the security products. So I'm an Ultra Instinct Black Band. Which again is another
Mr. Miyagi background. Talk about that as well, please.
That's exactly. You used to have that you were a black belt at jiu-jitsu on here, but you took it off. I don't know why, but that's maybe people felt threatened when they saw your interest. I'm not entirely sure, but
wax on, wax off.
Talk about your podcast, John. You got to say that. Surely, did you talk about that?
Oh, so I'm going to that next.
All right.
That next. But yeah, so I also co-host a podcast, and it's called Microsoft Spotlight Podcast. So if you want to give us a listen, give us a listen. If you don't. But we do incredible stories, and we talk to women in tech at the moment. We're on episode 45, 46, so like lots of really cool stories, including our friend Zoe Wilson, Donna Sakar, like loads of absolute massive names within the Microsoft world as well. So yeah, give us a listen if you want. If you don't.
It's worth it. I would normally say this, but it's a good one. So
Yeah, there you go.
The thing about it is, the thing is what I like about it, which is nice, is people's stories. I like stories when it comes to podcasts and talking about people's backgrounds and stuff. And sometimes tech can get a bit old, a bit stale, because everything moves at a month to month. But people's stories stay in stone for history.
All right, awesome. Well, thanks, guys. First and foremost, we want to talk briefly about Endpoint DLP, kind of an overview, capabilities, usability, configuration. When I always think about these problems, I always think about the who, what, why, when, how, where. Whenever I'm looking at kind of a piece of technology, what is it that we're trying to say? What are we trying to protect against? What are we trying to do? And for me, one of the first things I started thinking about is kind of what is Endpoint DLP there to do? Who is it protecting, really, from a security perspective? And it's typically the most simplistic level. We're thinking about data leaving an endpoint device, and kind of we looked at kind of the spectrum of user risk. So where these kind of, I guess, leakages or accidents going to occur. And to be honest, it breaks down to three main categories is the one. So negligent, a user means well that they're trying to share data. They may, accidentally share that wider than they anticipate is the thing. They may email out sensitive content. That's one kind of user risk level, which is negligent. Compromised or attacked, this is usually users of high interest, so high value targets to threat actors. Typically, they get phished, malware installed, and basically at that point, they have access to the account, and then people are going to try to start exfiltrating data out of that compromised or attacked account. And the final one is malicious. This is more insider risk focused, but this is, I might be working somewhere, I have a grudge against the company. I'm rather salty, as Jose would say. I'm looking to, exfiltrate a large amount of data before I leave this company is the one. So the other one is, we may be an admin in a privileged role to, use our powers to spy on users. So those are the three kind of key areas that I looked at as to what we're trying to protect against. And I think one thing that I wanted to see, and I appreciate that the numbers don't tally up to 100%, but please.
We've done this 4 times. It's still not been fixed.
Here we go.
No. Listen here, guys. Listen here. The numbers don't add up to 100 because it could fall into 2 categories. That's the reason why they don't fall into 100. But when we're looking at these, I pulled these from Nero.com. Data loss prevention statistics. What are the key things we're looking at? It's typically compromised or attacked as the heavy hitter, and then negligent. Malicious is kind of lower down is the thing. So that is kind of what we're looking at. So these are the key kind of user risks that we're looking at when we're looking at Endpoint DLP. What is Endpoint DLP? A few of the key kind of overviews of this is we're taking the existing DLP platform that you've got, and actually let me just start again. So DLP, data loss prevention. What we're really looking to do is prevent sensitive information or data from leaving your organization. Yeah, that's just what boils it down in a nutshell. So whether that's via email, whether that's via SharePoint, Teams, these are the ones that they had built in at the beginning. They've extended that protection onto endpoints, so Windows 10 and also Windows 11. And also even more awesome than that is they also extended this protection to macOS devices. So you can protect your Windows devices and your macOS devices. No new Unix out there at the moment, but I mean, you probably have most of your bases covered with that. The great news is if you want to get using Endpoint DLP is if you're already making use of Defender for Endpoint, you're already kind of set up and automatically ready to use Endpoint DLP. The one thing I would say is it's an E5 feature, so it is a premium feature that's locked away. So you just got to watch your licensing is the important thing. The next thing is management, and management of kind of Endpoint DLP is handled in the Microsoft Purview portal. So where you manage basically, your DLP at the moment is managed on the same portal, and I think John will give us a demo of that in a bit. Really, we can take kind of what we see in the Purview portal and extend that into Sentinel, and Jose will talk a bit about that later. Another important thing to consider when we're talking about Endpoint DLP is file types, really. So it supports all your standard Office file types is the important thing. So I think it's, your Word, PPT, PDF. I think it covers a number of images as well as the important thing. So yeah, we've got your bases covered. But for me, it's taking that existing DLP protection that we may have already applied for SharePoint, Teams, OneDrive, Exchange, and extending that onto our endpoints. And that's really what we're talking about in terms of technology. Capability, what can we actually prevent? What can we do over and above the existing DLP service? Now, there are some cool stuff here that I really do like is the one. So let's go with the most basic one.
You see me holding my head. You see me holding my head. I like this slide. This is a really good overview of it, yeah.
Well, thank you. I do try, John. I do try putting a lot of effort into this, so I appreciate the kind words is what I would say. For me, when I'm thinking about Endpoint DLP, it's that piece above existing DLP that you've got. And for me, when we're thinking about endpoints, one of the most common ones is typically going to be someone plugging in a USB stick is the important thing. And it's going to basically be a case of someone plugging in a USB stick and trying to copy data out of your organization onto that USB stick. And then, whatever they do next with it, sell it to a competitor, release it to the web, who knows what they'll do. But copy to a USB is an important one. Maybe copy to a network device, network share as well. Another common one might be that they just go try to print this as the one. So can I go print this item to a local printer, a network printer, whatever it may be? Can I exfiltrate the data in kind of an old-fashioned way? When we get a bit more funky, remote sessions, so copy over RDP, paste it over RDP. I know I've used that one plenty of times before when I'm doing sysadmin work or whatever it may be, and being able to select which data can go over that remote session is pretty damn awesome. Now, the next two are really quite powerful, and this is where the technology really excels, is what I would say. So cloud services. So we're able to kind of approve which cloud services we want users to upload to. So it may be that we have a piece of information that's tagged as sensitive with an organization. We can prevent a user from uploading that to, say, Dropbox.com or Box.com or any other third-party cloud service you may wish to prevent them from using is the important thing. The final one is on the actual endpoint itself. We can define things as corporate or non-corporate apps. So imagine you had Word, imagine you had Notepad. Word could be deemed as a corporate app. Notepad could be deemed as a non-corporate app. We can stop the transfer of data between them. And I'm pretty sure we got a nice demo to go with that one as well. Now, if I want to roll out Endpoint DLP, I think, John, do you want to go for this one, buddy? Or do you want me to rock and roll with it?
You rock and roll, you're in flow.
All right, fantastic. So Endpoint DLP, I think what I would always say, I've got a few top tips on the next slide about what I would do when I roll out DLP as a whole, just in general. But I think we can kind of take the approach for DLP that we've got at the present and roll out for Endpoint DLP. I don't think there's a great deal of difference that I would change. But for me, the first thing you need to really understand is kind of what data you have is the important thing. If you don't really understand what kind of data you're trying to protect from being exfiltrated or removed from your organization, you're going to probably have a tough time, because we need to understand what do you guys consider sensitive. So there's about 300 odd, I think, sensitive information types that are pre-built in. But what we really need to understand is what actually is sensitive to your organization is the important thing. It's no good just saying credit card information, UK driver license or whatever it may be. You probably want to have a think about what is it that you're actually trying to protect against.
And also what's worth noting with that is that every organization is completely different. As some organizations might have sensitive data that isn't sensitive data to other organizations, if you get what I mean. So you've got stuff like regex and stuff like that you can put into it to start creating that data types in Purview.
Yeah, so there's some really cool stuff as well. But the ones that really get me going is probably the trainable classifiers is the ones, the ability to take this. That's really where it's going to come powerful. But the next thing is probably let's get some data policies in place. Once you have some sensitive information type for your organization, I would typically start thinking about what is it that you want to do. And I'll leave it to John to kind of showcase what we can do on a policy. But the next thing is I would typically configure some policies, and I know John or Jose might differ here, but my approach typically whenever I roll out DLP, I would always run it in audit mode for a period of time, first and foremost, to get a feel for what is going to be triggered versus what is not. Yeah, I always like to just keep. Oh, there you go.
It's not worth a headache, basically, if you go ahead and just block things. Just go for it.
Do you know what? I was sometimes depending where we are, go with a happy medium. Especially with the Endpoint DLP, a happy medium. Sometimes the block with override is a really good way to start. Is a decent way. Maybe not start straight away with that, audit a little bit, but then block with override is perfect. It's beautiful.
There you go.
It's beautiful. That's my word, mate. What's going on in here?
No, I was impersonating you there.
But yeah, you have to. Fair enough.
For me,
I would recommend going audit mode all the time, because otherwise you might just think about operations, what people are doing. For example, finance department having to access certain files, copy certain data across. If you then go block mode, then imagine the harm that you'll be causing. So
but that's why I think the block with override is good, because you can give that option for people to do stuff they really need to. Then it is still audited, and also you're making someone think about what they're doing as well.
Fair enough.
For me, I would always start with audit. The next step is probably we've got enforce on the right. So I'll dismiss John. Apologies, John. But I would always go with audit, get a feel for what the organization looks like, to establish a baseline, and then go from there as the one. So I think John makes a sensible point.
You sound like you know your stuff, Luke. Yeah.
Well, thank you, Jose. I
I'm
think
making
for
a very
me-
sensible point, by the way. Very sensible.
You
point.
are indeed. You are indeed. Absolutely.
Luke is pre-sales. You know what? I used to be pre-sales. I wouldn't. I don't know if I consider myself pre-sales as much anymore. He's getting the most time possible. Thank you very much. The next one up is enforce. So once we have established that baseline, I would put in place kind of the policies. And I think John's suggestion here is very sensible. Is the one I'm not going to lie, but the ability to block, but have the ability to override that if needed. And John will come to that a bit later. But for me, yeah, let's get those policies there. And then the final act to this one is really monitor and act. It's no good putting in place these policies unless you're actually going to monitor them and have a process in place to actually act upon them is the important thing. And I think that leads nicely to I think this is the final slide before the demo. I would typically talk about recommended DLP policies. What would I do if I was running a DLP? And to me, this is just some sensible stuff. Now, I know I said that, you probably want to establish what your organization wants. But for me, if you're a UK organization, I'm hopeful most people here are, these are the ones I typically target first and foremost. Yeah. So I would build in your own ones on the top, some custom sensitive information types. But for a baseline, if you're looking to do this, I would recommend 2 baseline policies, tag in these sensitive information types. And what I would normally do is if you have 10 of these or less, I would typically allow that action, and maybe a notification if you want. But there may be a legitimate use case for sending 10 or less of these. I would then typically do another rule that's 10 or over, and on that one, I typically alert a team. But maybe it would be block with override, or maybe you can block it. It depends on your risk appetite, really, at this point. For me, still allow it, but I might let an information security team know is really the one. That is kind of the very high level, my recommended DLP policies. That's kind of my take on them. I would love to know if you guys have any recommendations yourself, because I'm always looking to improve, learn some more. But that's typically what I go with when I roll out DLP. Now, what we've got next is I'm sure is going to be a splendid treat. I'm very excited to see John demo some of this stuff.
I'm intrigued.
So, John, do you want to take the wheel whenever you feel comfortable, my man? And let's see it. And then we actually had a question from Stuart here. So I actually, do you suggest buying Enterprise Mobility Security E5? Do you need Azure AD Premium Plan 1 or Plan 2? So let's have a look. Oh gosh, here we go. So if you allow 10 or fewer, would your attacker be able to send multiple mails with 9 CCs? Yes, they would in that case, Dean. I think at that point, it's, again, a risk appetite one. So I think for me, I think there's got to be a typically, whenever I talk about this stuff, I always talk about security versus usability. And I think I don't want to make an unusable solution is the important thing. I think if you lock it down too heavily, people are just going to go somewhere else is the thing. So if I can't, if I'm unable to actually send an email with, a few credit card numbers, I'll probably just go somewhere else, What I would recommend though on that under 10, like again, it depends. The monitor and act block is really the one, is how, what level do you want to start monitoring and act on is the important thing. So if you feel comfortable with 10, then don't monitor and act, or don't, send an alert. It may well be that you want to alert each time someone sends, 5, over 5 or under 5. You can set that barrier, but typically the one for me is setting the 2 rules. So it is really on the organization, and the risk appetite there is the one. So in the scenario that I suggest, yes, you would be able to send that. But I think, again, you can dial that back and set that number that you want to be less is the important thing. So it could be 1 and it could be 2. 1 and 2 are the 2 rules. It could be 5 and over 5. Put data in an Excel or text file with a different data type. I don't think they allow that one. I think we tested that one, John. Is that right? We tested the one with the kind of renaming a file. I think that was one of the ones we tested or had a look at. Would it be affected by using WeTransfer or Kiteworks, similar service? So I'm not entirely sure what the question is there.
You can block it using Defender indicators. You can add your URL link in there. You add it as an indicator, and then there's no communication.
I'll show you that bit there actually. So let's go on to this bit. So we got the we're in DLP in compliance.microsoft.com in Purview, data loss prevention on the left-hand side. We have an overview here where we can see a very high level with the amount of policies that are being ready to be extended, how the detection, very high level stuff here. But we'll start from the left and we look at some of the policies that I've set up. So the one that I have set up is this highly confidential documents. So instead of going through and actually just explaining it, let's have a look and see what I've actually done in this policy. So if I go to edit and go to next, we can see here the locations. I've switched off everything except for devices. For endpoint DLP policies, I like to make a endpoint DLP policy just for the devices, and then kind of scope out from there, if you get what I mean. So we're not putting everything from Exchange, SharePoint sites. So we have a policy that just looks at devices. So if we look at this rule, I've created one for a highly confidential document. So I've already got information protection set up, and I've got normal classifications in there, like general, confidential, highly confidential, with internal and external in there. And we'll have a look and see how that looks like in Word in a second. So this condition is, if the content contains the sensitivity label of highly confidential, internal, external, we're going to create some actions. And these actions are going to be some pretty good ones. I've got a surprise for you, for Jose and Luke. I've seen this demo previously. I've added something to it. So
Dun, dun, dun.
All right, I'm hyped.
I'm ready.
Hey,
Yeah.
look at this up here. Look at this up here.
Oh, Dropbox is working now.
Okay, cool. Okay.
Okay. Show
Hopefully,
me.
it did
Show me your money.
It did 15 minutes ago. So we're blocking upload to a restricted cloud service domain or access from unallowed browsers. That's going to be set to blocked. We're going to block copy into to clipboard, so we can't copy information from Microsoft Word, for example, to like Notepad or an unallowed application, or just copy in general. We're going to block with override removable USB devices. Well, I can't test on here because obviously I'm using the Windows 365 machine. And network share, block with override, print, block with override. So it'll block it, but we can do an override. And if you look on the drop down here, we do have an audit only option, which the guys here were talking about, but we're doing a demo. I want to show you the full guns blazing, what happens, rather than just the audit, because you wouldn't be able to see too much except for an audit, and no one wants to watch an audit. But we can block, copy, or move using an unallowed app, or block or move using RDP, which Luke alluded to earlier. Access to restricted apps, we've blocked that as well. So we can do some other stuff here. We can have some user notifications for the endpoint DLP devices. We can customize a notification that pops up. We've done a default one for now, but I'll show you what I mean by the notification in roughly 2 minutes. Instant reports can also be sent off to admins. And yeah, that's about it for the rule set. So to create a rule, you can obviously go to that create policy up here, and then you could have your own financial one for the UK financial data, and that goes straight to your devices as well, and just do exactly kind of what we said before. Endpoint DLP settings, there's absolutely loads here. There are different drop downs, but we're going to focus entirely on this one here. So we've got unallowed browsers. We're going to have Google Chrome and Firefox as our unallowed browsers, which basically my company here, which I've created, I want Edge to be the only browser that can open up sensitive information. I don't want Google Chrome or Firefox, because maybe I just haven't got the right security settings for Google Chrome or Firefox. But I have with Edge because I've got Intune, and Intune I've got the Microsoft Edge security baselines on there. And if we look at service domains, I've got Dropbox.com and www.dropbox.com. You could put Google Drive in there, or any of the file transfer things. I think I saw in the chat box about 5 or so minutes ago. Service domains, you can put them all in there. And if you notice here, we've got the drop down here for block or allow. So we can make an allowed list, or we can make it a block list. But I've gone for a block list, so everything in here will be blocked. So what does that look like? I've already created a bunch of documents, a general one and a highly confidential one. So if we look at the highly confidential one and open it up, I've just called it project test document highly confidential. Some really sensitive data in this document. But if I was to open up Notepad, this is where I start to get a little bit twitchy, and I go to copy and even go to paste, I get this is not allowed. So copying while this is open, it's not allowed. And remember I said earlier, this can be customized. So this is what you can customize, and you can make that look a little bit different for your organization. So what about this? What about if I go to file and I go to print? I created a video the other day on universal print, and you can check that out now. So I'm going to check out the universal print. So this one here, Canon TS3100 series, is my universal print video printer. And if I go to print on this, it should block me. But I had earlier the manual override, so I can dismiss that completely and go, oh, wait a second, I'm sorry, I've done a bad thing. I'm not going to print this out because it's a highly confidential document. Or you might just go, actually, I actually really need to print this out. And I can press allow, and it will go off and print my document in my garage. So I can't do a demo here. But
John, we've got a question from the audience. We want to put you to the test. How about a screenshot? Does that work? Can you screenshot the word?
So if you were to do screenshot from, no, you can't do screenshot. You can't not block screenshot. No.
No. What about like print screen snip? You can't. I swear I had it blocked before, like way back when. But give it.
Yeah, but it wouldn't be via endpoint DLP.
No.
Probably be by something else.
You can block certain file formats, don't you?
Yeah. So I don't think you can do the actual screen print. But if I was using Windows 365 or something like that, I'd use something from Intune to block that anyway. If it's a screen print.
Try the Windows Shift S quick, would you? If you can, like the snip block using camera on your phone. Yeah, the camera on the phone. Oh no, you got it out that way. So yeah, there are a few ones to get you out of jail. I mean, the classic one is the phone and the screenshot of it. But yeah, that one is hard to prevent. Is the one.
Yeah, but But if you was to do that screenshot and you was to have, you could probably block JPEGs and stuff from coming out of the endpoint, like JPEGs and PNGs and stuff like that from coming off of your device if you really wanted to. So that would be a way to circumvent that.
I think the other one. Let's have a look. Elon spacing and misspelling will get you. I'll be honest. I'm not entirely sure what that one means. You have to. Usually, I can get most of the questions, but that one sent me for a loop. What about yellow on the printer?
Hey guys, don't ruin my thunder. So if I go
sorry, man, sorry.
If I go to highly confidential now and I drop that into Dropbox, I get a blocked. Your organization blocked dropping protected content into an unprotected location, and Microsoft Purview Data Loss Prevention blocks me from being able to put that into Dropbox.
Well done, John. That's awesome, man. That's very good.
And also, I haven't stopped there, Luke.
Oh my gosh, there's more.
Stop there. If I want to open up this PDF, highly confidential PDF in Google Chrome,
Boom.
I get another block. So that's the demo for using a non-authorized browser from opening up a document or anything like that. So that's just a couple of things that you can do. So I can answer some of the stuff in the chat, but let me stop my screen.
Do the files have to be labeled for this to work? No, they do not. It's just that in this example, John has done it without a label. He's done it with a label. The key driver is sensitive information types. That's really what drives DLP is the important thing. So Nathan, thank you for that one.
Yeah, I mean, information protection is your hub for everything in terms of DLP and stuff like that. In my opinion, it doesn't have to be, but in my opinion, it should be, because you've got the encryption straight away from when you create the document. Whereas if you go just DLP alone, you've got lots of files at rest with no encryption whatsoever.
So if you have the Google Chrome extension, is the error better? I don't actually know. That one is the thing. Charlie, I'm glad you asked that question. We got Jose lined up for you next to talk about kind of some of the Sentinel stuff. Alan, would it give it more control if you block all browsers except Edge? Yes, yeah. I mean, that's typically the other thing I would say, and to note on these ones, is these devices need to be enrolled in Defender for Endpoint to make this work. So by virtue, they're going to be managed devices as the one. So this is really a solution for managed devices is the important thing. So you will have a great deal of control over exactly what you want to kind of choose as the important thing in terms
I've
of.
Reshared my screen. I've reshared my screen because I thought, let me go for something. So if I go down to settings, and that's a really good thing. We've got device onboarding down here. So for the device onboarding, the first thing that we need to do, we need to turn this on. So as Luke said earlier, you've got the macOS device monitoring as well. And we got the Windows device monitoring. So this needs to be turned on in the first ping, and then we need to put in the onboarding stuff as well. So it's just something else to think about. You do have to switch this bit here on and get all of this set up before you can do everything with Defender for Endpoint. So then when your device is in Defender for Endpoint, it will automatically then go into the compliance portal after. But this is just something you do need to set up first down here. It's the device onboarding. Sorry, that was it.
Cool. Wonderful.
There
Alright,
was a
give me
question at the top, which I saw. It's just if you have the Chrome extension, would it work better? So no. So if you have the Chrome extension, from my understanding, it then becomes a allowed browser because you've got the Chrome extension, the Purview extension installed onto it. So therefore, it should have the protection, the required protection.
But does the error message look any better, John? Is I think the question. And I'll be honest, I have no idea. Is the thing. I've only tested this one in Edge, so I can't profess to knowing the answer on that one.
No.
All right, give me 1 second. Let's just beam up my screen and we'll have Jose for us. Let's have a look. Passive mode is a good shout. I'll be honest, I haven't tested that one ever. Either is the thing. I would expect it probably not to work. Is my guess. Yeah, because it's not active. It's just passive. It's just reporting. I don't think it would work. It is my expectations on that one.
I'm actually going to try. I'm going to put that into my demo lab, and I'm going to test that, Charlie, and get back to you because I was thinking that earlier, and I was like, shit, I wonder if that will work. But I'm gonna install Sophos.
Okay, well, good for you, John. Unlucky that you're going to have to go through that one. But the final one, I think we got one more question. Sorry, there's two. Is sensitive to user on the device, i.e., local app permissions different to user? I don't think it makes any difference as to the level of the user on the device. I don't think that the privilege level of the user matters is the one.
No,
it's more about.
I'm a local admin on that device, so I'm still getting the same thing.
And then Nathan, just to confirm, we only need to set up sensitive information types, deploy to devices policy, and configure endpoint DLP settings. Boom, we're good to go. I think you're good is the one. So you just need to be able to choose which ones you want.
Okay,
Cool.
Good. Excellent. Anything else? Shall we just crack on going to Sentinel?
You go for it, Jose, man. Sorry, I'm stealing
No worries. So who is ready for the jelly then? Let's now talk about the interesting stuff now, right? Microsoft Sentinel. Let's do it. All right.
Cool.
So next slide, please.
Cool.
Right, Microsoft Sentinel. What is Sentinel? All right. Sentinel is a SIEM tool. It's cloud native. SIEM stands for Security Information and Management. And in a nutshell, it's a solution that basically analyzes data and across your IT infrastructure, and then will help you with reporting and forensics on security incidents. And then it will raise alerts when there is certain rules that match, which means that there's a security incident in your business. Okay. So the way it works is that basically it first of all, collects data across your enterprise, users, devices, applications, and infrastructure. Okay, you name it, Sentinel can do it. CF, syslogs. There's so many ways of getting data in here that is mind blowing, to be honest. Then it helps you to detect threats and minimizes. Mate, you know how I feel about it.
That's it. I know you're very hyped for Sentinel.
Detect threats and minimizes false positive using analytics and threat intelligence. So there's a lot going on in the back end of Sentinel. You've got machine learning, you've got UAVA, which is user identity behavior analytics. The amount of noise that this tool will help you to reduce is unbelievable, right? Thanks to all of these tools in place. Then investigation, it will help you to hunt, take proactive approach to security with KQL, custom query language, right? Some people say that KQL is a new PowerShell. Luke would not agree with that, but it's beautiful, right? Really easy to read, really easy to understand. However, to craft these queries will take time. It's not as straightforward as you might think, but the actual query, when you got it in there, you can read it, and that's the second thing about it. And then it helps you to respond with automation. This is the SOAR capabilities of Sentinel, which is the orchestration that it offers and the integration across the security stack that Microsoft has got to offer. Next slide, please. Right, deployment. So how do we get this thing running? So first of all, there are many ways of doing this to begin with. If you're an absolute noob like John, sorry, not John, my bad, you can do a manual deployment, go in there, click the buttons, go into the log analytics workspace, then enable Sentinel, enable your data connectors, and etc. etc. That's boring. Okay, that's not the way you should do it. How would you do it? Look, you're the expert.
I mean, John can stick to his click ops. I think we'll go for something slightly more sophisticated. Is probably the best way I would put it. I'm a big fan of infrastructure as code. I typically, I would deploy anything in Azure using Bicep is typically what I would lead with. If you're familiar with Terraform, I can recommend Bicep. It's Microsoft's equivalent. ARM is a bit convoluted to me. I prefer the syntax and the language of Terraform. So Bicep kind of I gravitated to. Now, what I would say is sod, doing it all yourself, writing all this stuff out in Bicep. We can strongly recommend a GitHub project, an open source project. I think is it Alex Rodriguez? I can't quite remember the gentleman's name.
You have Sentinel to go.
Sentinel to go is an excellent kind of way of getting started. If you want to have Bicep for the win, thank you, Alan. But I would say, let's rock and roll with Sentinel to go. I think some of the key things are it will set up an infrastructure as code deployment for you of Sentinel. It can also pre-populate Sentinel with sample data, so you can test it out. Is the important.
So there you go. Lots of templates available on GitHub. Make sure you take advantage of them. And the thing with Sentinel is really straightforward, right? But it takes time to tailor, to polish. And once you've got that deployment, that configuration, like ready to go, smashing it through incidents and doing great hunting and all of that, you want to make sure that you can carry that across any deployments you do. And this is where you want to have your template ready to be deployed. Then connect. So first of all, depends what you want to bring in. You've got built-in data connectors in Sentinel. For example, for DLP, you might have to connect Defender for Cloud Apps. Maybe if you are forwarding alerts, you might want to connect Defender for Office 365, and then you have to take the boxes, the data types, right? You can choose what you want in here. It depends on what your SOC team is doing, which analytics you've got in place. You need to make sure that whatever you're ingesting, you've got any query, any analytic that is going to be using that data type. Otherwise, you're just wasting money in data ingestion. Make sure that you enable auditing as well in 365. By default, sometimes it's turned off. You have to go in there, just do it through clicking the buttons in the compliance portal, or you can do it through PowerShell.
I think you said Germany, wasn't it, Jose, last time?
For example, in Germany, it will be turned off by default because of GDPR. So it's one of those. Just bear that in mind. If you're not seeing any data in Sentinel, that's a reason. That's the first thing to check. Then hunting, you have to enable your analytic rules. When you enable your data connector, it will have built-in analytics in there, some KQL queries crafted by Microsoft security experts. But you can also create your own queries. You can go into the community, Microsoft community. It's just absolutely phenomenal. Whenever you're struggling, you go in there, you post, sorry, I need help, and you get someone who knows stuff and is going to help you out to craft this query. You also have to use if you are running a SOC team, you have to make sure you've got someone with KQL skills so you can take advantage of Custo, right? Because you can do so much, but as I said, you need to have that skill set to be able to take advantage of it. And then in terms of automation, we offer different rules within Sentinel. You've got near real-time detections, you've got schedule rules, you've got fusion analytics. I mean, there's so much you can do, but then you have to think about the responses you're going to give. And this is one of the main concerns, right? Because you can have so much in there, but if you don't have someone that's got that would respond, for example, at 3 a.m. on a Sunday to an incident, then what's the point of having this? I'll be talking about this. It's a logic app designer, basically, the way you can create your playbooks, which I'll give you some examples in a minute.
Okay. I was just going to ask you that question, Jose, as to what it's all about. How do we do it? Is the one.
Absolutely. So these are the hunting queries. You can see on the right side, that's what a query looks like. You can actually read the query. You understand. You can add your description in there. So for example, this query is looking for activity for terminated employee, creating device network events. So you can see what that person is trying to do. Basically, let's say Luke got salty and he's just trying to dodge stuff in there. You run this query and then you will pick it up, right? You get your incident in Sentinel. You can start investigating. Okay. Mm-hmm. Yeah, sorry.
I'll be honest. I can actually probably, I'm a big fan of PowerShell, so I'm sure, as you guys said, hold on, someone's beat you to your favorite person in the chat. Ooh. Someone's beat you to your boy Rod Trent.
That's a Sentinel god. Yeah, Rod Trent. I love him. He is amazing. And now that I can actually team him, and I work for Microsoft, it's like, hi Rod, I'm here. I need your help. So absolutely brilliant. That guy knows stuff, right? And he's so helpful. So definitely follow him. He's got a blog as well, which I can share with you guys in a minute. And he's got his GitHub repository as well.
So Jose, I get it. We've spun up the connection. we're ingesting events. We've got these hunting queries. We can start looking for endpoint DLP activities. But I think the problem I've had a look through the audit log, and one of the challenges I often have is you've got thousands upon thousands of events. How on earth can I kind of act upon this? Is probably the question I would ask. What can I do?
Humans are just fast too slow, right? For example, myself, I'm married, I've got 2 kids, and because that was not enough, I also got a dog. So well done, Jose. So you need something that will help you to remediate, to respond in real time. And that's what the Logic App Designer will help you to do. So Logic App Designer is a tool within Azure that helps you to create workflows, okay, based on certain triggers. For example, you can say, depending on an activity, I want this machine to be isolated. As simple as that, right? And then you can build on top of that. This is the SOAR capabilities of Sentinel. SOAR stands for Security, Orchestration, and Automation and Response. So this will allow you to scale. You must take advantage. And I think this is one of the key selling points of Sentinel itself.
Awesome. And then, I guess, so what are some of the, that's great and all. I like that. We can build out these kind of responses automated. What is it? What are you gonna do, Jose? How can we look to kind of what would you actually do with this stuff?
Are you ready?
I'm not entirely sure if I am, but let's see.
So, okay, the beautiful thing about Sentinel and the Microsoft tech is that everything is integrated, right? Everything is connected, and we offer that true single pane of glass for solutions. So, in one place, you can hunt across all your resources, as I said, data, devices, applications, identities. So let's say that there's an account that's compromised. You got an alert coming from AD, Identity Protection, saying that it's signing from a country, let's say Russia, whereas the user is just based in the UK. So that will trigger an alert. So what you want to happen, if that sign-in was successful or there was a bypass of conditional access, for example, is for that user to be blocked, maybe disable. You can revoke authentication tokens, and you can gather the IP address, browser version, all of that, and then add that to your Defender indicators, which means that any further connections from that place will be prevented across your entire infrastructure. As simple as that. And you don't even have to click a button for that to happen. Okay. Then another case would be infected machine. Again, you can isolate a device from the network, you can run Defender scans, and you can generate reports on infected files, because what happens is you get your timeline in Defender for Endpoint, so you can start just hunting and gathering that data that's relevant to your SOC for you to start investigating. For people trying to copy files across USB sticks, as well, you can run queries on demand. You can see who's been doing it if you allow it. But if you don't allow it, then you get an alert saying, by the way, Young's been trying to steal your SharePoint data. So, good stuff to have. So you know what's going on, what's happening in your organization with managed devices. Here, user mass deletion and upload of files. This is a really good one, actually. It's something I've seen working when it had a user basically trying to exfiltrate data into WeTransfer as a platform. So Defender for Cloud Apps picked up a lot of communication, network traffic between that endpoint and the IP address linked to WeTransfer. Then we run some advanced queries in Sentinel. We picked up that behavior, and we actually managed to stop that data exfiltration. If we didn't have this solution in place, we wouldn't have been able to stop it. So great stuff in here. You can as well disable the user. You can then send a report of files being shared, and maybe something's been deleted. You can restore those files as well. Then for new unrecognized device and added to endpoint, you can also see. This is for Teams, actually.
I went off piste on here, Jose. You're going to have to forgive me for this one.
Okay.
So this one, I've actually been working on some Defender. I think it's advanced device control. Yeah, so the ability to control what devices we plug in. I thought that one's quite topical for this, so apologies. That's my bad. I was thinking that's a good one that we could report on. So if someone plugs in a device into a USB stick, I know we can alert on that. I know it goes into Defender, and at that point we could bring it into Sentinel as the one. So I that one is what I was thinking on that. So you have to forgive me on that.
Okay, Stuart, about your question. So you don't really need a license. You can install, as Nathan, you said, an AMA agent, and then you can start collecting logs. You can run your queries. You can have your event IDs in there, and then push them into Sentinel if you like. But if you had, for example, Defender for Endpoint, Plan 2, then you can actually enable the data connector within Sentinel, and then select your data types, and then start ingesting data. Okay. Next slide, please.
Awesome. Oh, that was the Sentinel when we had the Ignite updates at this point, Jose. So apologies.
No worries.
Happy to tackle them. Do you guys want to go?
Go for it if you like, mate. It's fine.
All right. Well, I think for me these were quite simplistic. Is the one. It was a very nice one. So I think prior to Ignite, the way that it was looking at working is basically it was either all in or all out. So I don't think we could make exceptions for, say, a printer or for a network share on Endpoint DLP is the problem. So we could basically only say, yeah, it was a bit tougher as the one. It was a bit more. It was very much all in or all out, but Ignite, they announced the ability to basically have authorized printers, authorized USB, or authorized network shares. This makes it very flexible. So you can have corporate kind of USB devices, corporate network shares, corporate printers that allows us to print sensitive information, copy sensitive information, but only to these specified kind of areas is the important thing. And that one is really quite powerful. So the ability to have these sanctioned and unsanctioned areas make it a lot easier, in all honesty. And that was kind of the end of our session. I think there was a few other ones there, Jose, for you. Sorry, I'm gonna put you on blast, Jose. See if you can get these ones already. I think there was quite a few that came out in there as the one who was quite interesting, certainly for me, because I didn't actually know this one. So James Munro, I think you have to forgive me. My English isn't great, but how much would it cost to run endpoint for DLP through Sentinel, for example, 1,000 endpoints? So do you know how much it would cost to run Sentinel for, say, Defender for endpoint for 1,000 endpoints?
I wouldn't be able to give you an estimate, but what I can tell you is that if you use the Azure calculator and then based on workbooks, you can then tell how much data you're ingesting. So to give an example on how you can work this out, the first 31 days when you enable Sentinel and a local analytics workspace are free. So you can actually connect all of your data in there and ingest for free for the first 31 days. And then if you enable a workbook, which is cost optimization workbook, I think it's called, you can find that on GitHub. It will tell you how much data you've been ingesting by solution and by data type. So then you'll see what's being ingested, and then after that month you can take that amount of gigabytes that you've got in there and use the Azure calculator and then add your data amounts in there. One thing to bear in mind is that you've got two different calculations. You've got the log analytics workspace calculation that you have to do, and then the Microsoft Sentinel ingestion. And the reason that's important to know this differentiation is because for the log analytics workspace, the commitment plans are different to what they are in Sentinel. So I think for 100 gigs to Sentinel, you get 50% off if you get into commitment plan, whereas for log analytics workspace, you only get for 100 gig 50% off. So make sure that you put those numbers in the Azure calculator and just put it in the right places, basically, your data.
And like I always say, you learn something new every day. Nathan and Charlie, thank you for that. I didn't actually realize you get ingestion credits as part of the E5 is the one. So that was a new one to me.
Yes, you get 5 megabytes per user, per day per user, basically, if you have a full E5.
Nice. I had no idea.
But there are some exclusions, though, for certain data types. It's not for all data types, by the way. I
yeah,
can find out.
Something like Azure AD logs and some of the Defender stuff, I believe.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah. So slightly off topic. Dan would love to see an Azure AIP on-premise scanner that was removed. However, popped up in Purview. Yeah, especially demos for it. I have played with that way back when. That was a number of years ago. So that is an interesting one. I think it's gonna, it's the only real way of classifying kind of sensitive information types on your on-prem stuff is the one. So again, I haven't got any ready-made. Yeah.
So back to the passive mode question.
Oh, go on then.
So real-time protection of behavior monitor must be enabled.
Okay, so
it needs to be. It can't be in passive mode.
That's kind of what I was expecting is the thing. Can you control what? And sorry, Chris and Charlie, apologies. Can you control what's sent in terms of log events? Is there a different logs amount if using sysmon? Jose is another one for you.
Sorry, what's the question?
Can you control what's sent in terms of log events? Is there a different log amount if you're using sysmon is the one?
So there's a new way of ingesting data into Sentinel. It's in actually public preview just now. There's an API. There's a log ingestion API. You know about this? It released like weeks ago. Now you're able now to build your own tables and queries to pull only the relevant data, because whereas before you can only use just everything sort of thing if you had enabled data connector. And then another way is by just crafting your own KQL queries and then again doing some filtering and then ingesting data into Sentinel. Let me see if I can find that link because it's quite good. And I just found out about this like last week anyway. So Check data. But yes, the answer is yes. It is possible now. There's a new API that will allow you to do that and build your tables and select whatever you need specifically, so you don't end up just ingesting everything.
Oh, look at this one. Matt Zorich has an ace list of KQL queries. He's part of Dart, I think. Well, what does Dart stand for, Jose? Do you remember?
Oh, May, don't do this to me.
All right, fair enough. Thank you. Sorry, guys.
Yeah. Yeah, it's the detection and response team.
Response team.
Yeah, the detection and response team.
There you go.
I'm just looking for. There we go.
Go for it, Chris. Take the wheel before we keep answering more questions, man. I appreciate we're 2 minutes over, so you do what you got to do. You got to cut us off, man. Otherwise, we'll just keep going.
It's fine. It's been really good. Really good session. So yeah, thank you so much. It's been really useful and fantastic that the demo worked.
Well, you know what?
John's cooking skills.
Look, these lot are slandering me. Yeah, we've done this 4 times and it's worked every time. So I don't know what's going on.
Which is the difference between slander and libel? Libel is written, isn't it? And slander is just vocal. So
Exactly,
I think you've got it right, actually, in this instance. This is the one.
Jose's the ex-lawyer, so you can tell us.
There was a reason he quit.
What I would say is, guys, how much you pay for the demo gods? I think John actually sacrificed. He sacrificed quite a bit to get this one working. I don't want to go into the details, but I know there was a heavy toll was paid to make this one work. Is the thing. I think on top of that, we would love to say thanks to everyone for the great engagement. I mean, this is probably we've had this session a few times. Maybe I think might be our 3rd time, and this is the most engagement we've had. So we just wanted to say a big thanks. I don't want to blow on a trumpet, but I think this is the best we've delivered it yet. So thank you very much for having us. Thanks for all the questions. You guys were a great audience. Thank you.
Yeah, and I just want to repeat there what Charlie said as well. It was a fantastic session, and thank you so much, guys, for giving this to the group tonight. It was really brilliant and very informative, and I really enjoyed it. And it's nice to actually see a presentation that's not professional, and I mean that in a nice way.
Well,
that hurt a bit, isn't it?
I mean, don't slander the deck. I mean, the deck is very, very much professional. Those slides are absolutely killer. You can't deny that. They're beautiful, as Jose would say. But we are all friends here, so we like to keep it casual. Certainly on the virtual ones, we like to keep it we like to keep it fairly relaxed. Is the thing. We go back for about a year and a bit now, so.
Definitely, but it's nice to see that it was a little bit more relaxed, but it got the points across, and I really, really enjoyed it. So thank you very much, guys.
Awesome. Thank you very much.
And this is the link, by the way, for data ingestion. It's in preview, but that's the way to go moving forward. Okay, will help you massively to save money. So
cool. That's a nice one.
You go.
Okay, guys. So what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to move on from that presentation, and we've got the quiz coming up as well, which you guys are more than welcome to stay for and take part in. Okay, so this is a community that we're trying to build out, obviously focused on the Microsoft Cloud, the Microsoft security stack as a whole, but without feedback, we don't know how well we're doing. As Charlie mentioned, we are actually in conversations offline about ways that we can grow this community more, and it's something that we want to get back to the community. But it's a joint effort with everyone. And while mentioning about community, there's a big community event coming up that we'll be taking part in. Our session is going to be on the 19th of December at 7:00, and it's part of the Festive Tech Calendar event that's going on for the month of December. So we will be there. There'll be prizes courtesy of our, we can't call them sponsors, our supporters, HTG, and they'll be offering some prizes at the quiz. But I'd like to hand over to the legend that is Gregor Sutty. And over to you, my friend.
Cool. Thanks very much. Can I share my screen? I won't take long, don't worry. Let me just, I haven't really prepared anything, so apologies. So you guys probably don't know who I am. So I'm Gregor Sutty. I'm an Azure MVP up in Scotland. I work for an Azure company in the Netherlands called Intercept. And for the last, I think 4 years ago, we started this thing called the Azure Advent Calendar. So throughout the whole month of December, every day in December, we wanted people to try and create content and share their knowledge, just like what we've been watching tonight. People doing sessions, blog posts, videos, hackathons, anything at all throughout the month of December. It's free to organise, it's free to run, it's free to take part. If you do submit, you always get chosen, so we don't let anyone down. If you put forward 3 talks, you'll get one guaranteed to be accepted. That was 4 years ago. Now we're calling it the Festive Tech Calendar to move away from just Azure. So it's any kind of technology at all. So even if you want to do a talk on using Raspberry Pis or anything at all, then we kind of run this throughout the month of December. So just to show you how successful it's getting now, we've got 159 unique people talking in 192 sessions. So if you go to festivetechcalendar.com, let me just put that in chat if you don't mind. That's the website. If you'd still like to take part, we can still fit you in. We have a schedule at the moment where it's now available. We've got up to, sometimes we've got 6 tracks on the first day, for example, and then it's mostly 5 and 4. But it's all kinds of technology. We've actually got the people called the Viva Explorers, they're calling themselves. So they're doing 12 days of Viva, just to match with the festive kind of theme. But if you want to do security talks, please do sign up. I will put the sign up link. Let me just put the cheeky sign up link if you will still want to take part. Let me put that in there. We're giving away prizes, as Chris said. HTG are going to sponsor it as well. So we've got lots of competitions coming up. We will be putting that on the supporters page. So last year we had lots of different people who gave away lots of really cool prizes. And the last thing I wanted to mention quickly was we're trying to raise money for a charity. So someone asked me to jump on a call and try and help this company with some IT. And I noticed that they're looking for donations and things like that. So if someone goes missing, this charity raise money to help the people, the family of the family of the person who's went missing, just to try and help them along a little bit. So we're also trying to raise some charity money. Last year we raised £5,000, which Microsoft kindly doubled to £10,000 for Girls Who Code. But this year, just by chance, when I was just planning this, missing people reached out to us, and I said to the women, "Can we help?" And so we're trying to do that. So we've got where is it? We've got Just Giving page as well. So we've just started, but it should hopefully start moving in the month of December. Everything's on the YouTube channel. The Twitter account for this is _CloudFamily. It's free to join, it's free to take part. So if anyone does want to take part still, then please use that link. And yeah, that's me. Just wanted to say thanks for letting me come on here and just kind of run past this, Chris and Charlie. So thanks for this. I'm going to stay for the quiz and then hopefully win a prize. Not because I don't know anything about security. So I'll pass it back to you.
Thanks, Gregor. Really
Cheers.
Appreciate it.
No, thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks a lot.
No, everything kind of you do for that setup. It was my, from personal side of things, it was the first session I ever did, was for the Festive Tech Calendar last year.
Yeah, it's kind of the one thing I forgot to say. It's kind of for people who are wanting to get started doing stuff. So we can help with content. We can help with creating the videos and the blog, but anything at all. So you don't have to be a professional at this by any stretch of the imagination. A lot of people started with this, which is quite funny.
Yeah.
Somebody like Shabazz Dar started on this, and he's now written books and done videos, and he's an MVP. So it's good to start somewhere. But I'll stop talking and I'll let you continue. Thanks for having me on, Ian.
Yeah, thanks for coming on, Gregor, and obviously to you and the rest of the team behind the Festive Tech Calendar. Massive thank you, for the community work that you put in for that. I'm sure there's plenty of other things that you could be doing over December, but no, we really appreciate it, and it's a fantastic event. And we're glad to be able to support that by putting a session together, which is going to be a bit light-hearted, a bit of fun, some prizes to be won. So yeah, a massive thank you for your commitment to the community. Okay, guys, so what we will do now, we'll move on over to the quiz. Okay, so we've got a couple of prizes. We've got first and second place tonight. First prize will be a £25 Amazon voucher, and second place will be £15 or currency equivalent. So if you're from overseas, then we'll work out the equivalent in your currency. give me 1 second. Just move over.
Whilst you're just getting the quiz up, I'm going to put a challenge out, and Chris doesn't know this, because we're going to be doing the quiz. If we can raise, let's say, £150 up to the point of the quiz, I'll make Chris dress up in something funny for the Christmas quiz.
Oh, you've spoiled it because I was going to dress up in something funny anyway.
Well, I haven't said what yet. It could be an Everton shirt, mate.
I'm sorry, but that is no.
Well, we've had suspenders.
Moving on. Okay, guys, if you can head over to menti.com and if you sign up with the code above here. Okay, so you can take part via menti.com using the following code, or if you scan the QR codes here, I'll take you straight into the quiz. Okay. What numbers are we looking at in the chat there, Charlie?
About 18, roughly.
18. Okay, so we've got 12 in here. So give you a couple more minutes. Okay. I'll call that time now. Okay, guys, whoever's entered now, we'll make a start. So question 1. The quicker you answer, the more points you'll get. Which one is not part of the Entra stack? Azure Active Directory, Permissions Manager, Information Protection, or Verified Identity? Information Protection. Seem very spread across the answers there, but well done to the 5 who got that correct. Question 2. When is Cybersecurity Awareness Month? Is it November, October, April, or July? Well done, guys. So it was 9 of you got it. It was last month. Which of these features is not in Defender for Endpoint P1, but is in Defender for Business? Enhanced Attack Surface Reduction, Endpoint Detection and Response, Block of First Sight. And it's Endpoint Detection and Response. Question 4. Which of the following Sentinel data sources is not free? Azure Activity Logs, Office 365 Audit Logs, Device Events from Microsoft 365 Defender, Alerts from Microsoft Defender for Cloud. Jose, if you got this wrong, you're in trouble. Device Events from Microsoft 365.
There you go.
Sorry, there we go. How many signals are synthesized daily?
And that's by Microsoft.
100 trillion, or 18 trillion, 3 trillion, or 43 trillion? Oh, it's quite split there, but yeah, 5 of you getting it right. 43 trillion signals are synthesized a day. So let's have a little look where we're at. In fact, thanks to Beyonce who's joined us tonight. Beyonce's in the lead. Who's Beyonce?
Not me.
It's not.
There you go, Nathan.
Will a single lady in the room please put your hand up? Okay, question 6.
Oh,
And he's not playing ball tonight. There we go. Which of the following MFA is fish resistant? Certificate based, mobile app push, or SMS message? Glad you've learned to spell this month, Charlie.
Just about.
And it's certificate based.
Considering I did this at 11 o'clock, 12 o'clock last night. Trying to come up with questions is not easy.
it's good questions, though, I have to say.
Which of these is not a Defender for Cloud component? Defender for DevOps, Defender for Networks, Defender for DNS, or Defender for Containers? So actually thinking about this one, Charlie, should it be which of these is not yet a Defender for Cloud component? Very balanced, and it's Defender for Networks. Fantastic. I think the Defender for DevOps is the most recent addition, if I'm not mistaken.
It is.
Yeah, and Defender for Containers got renamed from Defender for Kubernetes.
Which ensures that Microsoft can't access your content to do service operations without your explicit approval? Purview double key encryption, Purview customer key, Purview customer lockbox, or Purview message encryption? And it's customer lockbox. We've got our star guest tonight, Beyonce, is absolutely smashing it out the front there, and Dan in second, and it's quite close there between second and fourth.
Always had it in the bag. Always had it in the bag, José.
Fair enough, mate.
Okay, and our last question now. This could be the decider. What is UEBA? Is the way I'll pronounce it. User and endpoint behavior authentication, user and entity bypass authentication, user and endpoint behavior analytics, or user and entity behavior analytics?
Now, you should all get this. José called it out.
Click on the wrong one.
Did you get that wrong?
Click on the wrong button. Trying to read so fast, I messed it up. No.
Congratulations to that one person. So yeah, no way,
And,
Jose.
and we know it wasn't José who just mentioned it in his talk.
It wasn't me. Oh.
And the winner is. I think we know who the winner is. It's Beyonce. And the looks of it. I think Beyonce was listening. So if you get in touch with us and just let us know if the prize is going to you or Jay-Z. And closely follow behind us, Dan, in second place. So if you guys can just drop me a message either on LinkedIn, Twitter, and I'll get them prizes over to you as soon as possible. Okay.
Can I just say, guys, by the way, we've got this WhatsApp group and we're saying that this has been one of the best groups we've ever been. Just presenting, it's just everyone's so engaging and we feel so welcome. So thank you for that. It means a lot and we definitely want to come back. That's how we feel. So just pass on that feedback.
Thank you,
so
José.
much.
Really appreciate that. And it's been great having you guys on board. And like I say, we couldn't have this group without really everyone who takes part and attends really. So it's been fantastic. So thank you. Really appreciate that.
Thank you.
I'll have you back at any time.
Yeah.
If I bring some swag.
Yeah, you can bring some swag. Okay, guys, listen, I just want to say massive thank you to our presenters tonight. Thank you to Charlie as well for putting this together with myself. It can be a bit frantic sometimes, just making sure everything is right. But, we couldn't do it without you guys in the community coming to, to join in these sessions. Also, just want to say a massive thank you to HTG, our sponsors. They've been with us since the very start, and a massive thank you to everyone over there and offering the prizes for the quiz. So a couple of ways you can reach out to us is Twitter, LinkedIn, and obviously we've got our YouTube channel, which we will get this uploaded to over the next couple of days. So if you want to watch the session back or obviously pass it on to any other guys out there who can catch up with the session. So massive thank you from me, Charlie.
Yeah, just really echoing what Chris said. So just really thanks everyone for coming. It's been great, and thanks to HTG for sponsoring us. Without them, we wouldn't be here, or we wouldn't be able to offer the quiz prizes. And yeah, without you guys here, we wouldn't exist. So yeah, it's just been absolutely fantastic to kind of get back going. And obviously, we've not got an official session. We've got the quiz next month. I've got a session at the Festive Tech calendar as well. I think mine's actually on Christmas Day, so I don't think many people will be watching that on Christmas Day. So, and then we're looking to get started again in the new year in January with another session.